Morning, learning as a chutz for Shlema for Ilana Chaya Baserach, and there's an aliyah from the Shama of Meir Ben Elazar. Trying to figure out where we were up to. It's been a while. I think
Ayin Zayin Amid
we're on
Beis,
Ayin Zayin Amud Beis. I don't remember which two dots. It's the first
Shoya
two ones.
Shiatasa.
The top one. Okay, it's about 10 lines in the top. Shulya Shayatzasa. We said if a Shulya came out part of the way, it's not going to become mutter through the shechita of the mother of the animal because it might have included the roish in that part that went out. Amrullah, this is only if there was no other vlad that came along, meaning the amniotic sac came out and there was nothing else that came out with it. So we assume that the vlad is nimuach, it's absorbed within the sac. But aviyeshi vlad, if in addition to the amniotic sac, a vlad of some kind came out, ein choishin levlad acher. But we're not talking about the din of the other vlad. The other vlad obviously already came out, or whatever. We don't really know what happened. Maybe the vlad came out later. But the point is, we are we don't assume that there was twins and one was nimuach inside of the shilya and the other one came out separately. Rabbi Yochanan bein eini mavlad bein yeshi mavlad choishin lavlad acha. He says no. We even if there's another vlad, we're still choishish for two vladis, and if part of it came out, we're gonna say it's gonna be aser because part of the maybe it was the roish. If there's no obviously if there's no vlad inside of it, then the shilya, the fact that it was part of it came out will not exclude it from the shechita of the mother. The shechita of the mother will be matter. We have that Rav Elazar was saying a chumrah, and according to what we're saying now, Rav Elazar is saying that if there is another vlad, we're not chayshish. So that's a kula. Aliyat mar hachiyat mar. Rav Elazar didn't say that it's not going to loishanu. The way we had is loishanu elisheini vlad. But if there's another vlad, then the shilya would be kosher. It's saying loishanu elisheini kshura b'vlad. It's only going to be true that if it partially came out, it's going to be usher if there's not a vlad attached to it. Aval kshur b'vlad ein chayshul vlad acha. But if there's a vlad attached to the shilya, we don't assume that there was two attached vladis within this one shilya, and one of them came out and the other one is inside. Normally, each vlad will have their own amniotic sac, I guess, their own shilya. I don't believe that's the way the biology that I'm familiar with. That's not the way I understand it. I mean, it happens to be my wife had triplets, so I guess I'm a little familiar with this. Rabbi Yochanan says we only say this when there's a shilya b'lev vlad. Aval yeshim vlad ben kshur b'vlad ben ein kshur vlad ein chayshin levlad acher. So according to this, Rabbi Yochanan is saying that whenever there's a second vlad, whether it's attached or not, we are going to assume that it's you're going to assume that the new vlad is the correct one. Rabbi Lazar said it's only if it's kshur b'vlad, then you're not chayshish b'vlad acher. But if there's a second one, then you are. So he's coming out l'chumra. He's saying kshur b'vlad. It's not. We're not going to think. We're not going to assume that there's two separate vladas. Behind the Amr of Yirmiyah l'chumra Amr of Elazar. That's where Yirmiyah says that Elazar was talking l'chumra. Tanya kavose dur Elazar. You have a brayso like Elazar. Hamapeles min behema chaya v'oif. Someone that an animal that is mapeles. Is it an animal? What is this again? It's talking about an Isha. An Isha that's mapelas, a Vlad, she miscarries, a Vlad that appears like a kind of behema chayviyai. That's the form it takes. The Shilya Iman, together is a Shilya. Bisman shekshura behen, when the Shilya is attached to this malformed fetus, ein chayshun levlad acha. We assume that this fetus came from the Shilya, and therefore we're going to assume there's only that one Vlad. But ein kshur behen, if it's not kosher behen, harimatel chaymer shnei Vladus. We're going to be put on the chumrah of shnei Vladus. Sheyoyim shemen yimuach shvir shel Shilya shemen yimuach shel yasei shel shvir. We're going to have to be chayshish that maybe the Shilya is really has a Vlad in it that was dissolved, and we'll say that the Vlad that was born, maybe the Shilya of it also disappeared. So this Brisa is telling you that when they're kosher, we're not chayshish for a second Vlad. If we're chayshish for a second Vlad, the nafkamina is going to be that a Vlad that has the appearance of does not have a appearance of a person. It's a machlokes whether that's considered to be a yeledes legavi the dinim of that it gets 1 week that it's tamei in the case of a zachar and 2 weeks in the case of a nekeva, as well as the yemei taira that come after that. So going according to the chachamim who say that this is not that such a vlad does not have any tumah. So the question is going to be over here. We can disregard that Vlad that we see because it doesn't have a human appearance. But maybe there's a Vlad Nimuach that would have been a valid, a normal, a non-deformed fetus that would have been chayiv with possibly the chumras of each one of a zachar and a keva each have chumras that the keva has longer yemei tayr but she has a longer Yemei Tumah also. So you have to do the chumras of both. You have the longer Yemei Tumah and the shorter Yemei Taira because we don't know which one. We have to assume that this, according to this Mandamar, if it's not kshura, you have to assume that there's a second shilya. But we're saying if it is kosher, then you don't have to assume that. We assume that the Vlad came from the shilya, and that's the only thing that's here. So that is like Rebbe Lazar. The Gemara continues. The Mishnah had continued. Hamavakera sheipila, a animal that had not yet given birth, and it miscarries, and it produces a shilya. The Mishnah said it's not it's not asa bahana. It doesn't have the kedusha of a bechar of a behema, which are certain behemoths. You have to of a shor seh. You have to give it to the kayin, and he brings it as kachim. But if it's mapila a shilya, it's not necessary. You could throw it away. My time. What's the reason? Most behemoths give birth to something that's kadosh b'dusha b'chayra. Umiyat behemoths davar she'ena kadosh b'dusha b'chayra. But there's a small percentage that give birth, like we were talking about before, to a fetus that does not have the form of the animal that produced it. Umayniu nidma, something that has the form of a different animal. And on top of that, so that's one suffix. And also everything is always half zachar and half nekev. And nekevas are also not mechuyev in bechar. Samach miyuta the nidma lemechza and the nekevas. So you add the possibility that it was a nidma, a non-similar, an animal, a baby that's born that's not the same as the mother, together with the mechza and the keves, havelus chorim miyuta. So it comes out a zachar that's chayiv and bechara is a miyat. Therefore, it doesn't have the kedusha as bechara because it's only a miyat. So we said In addition, ve'ein kaiver ma'isa. We said
We skipped
we skipped.
Uva
I'm
Mikdashim.
sorry, umukdashin to cover by if it's an animal born to something that was hoktish, right? If you makdish, let's say, an animal to be an oilo or a chatas, and that was a female, I guess an oilo can't be a female, but an animal that could be a female that you were makdish it, and then it gave birth to a shilya tikava. You have to bury it. My time a ruba bar mikdash hava because there's no exclusion for nekavis, could still be kosher for nekavis. So therefore, you obviously have a roiv that it's the vlad, that if it's a vlad, it's going to be kaddish. So therefore, it has kedushas kosher. We said ve'ein koivenoisa. We said in the Mishnah, not by the precious drachim, and not where you hang it from a tree, because he says that darchei hamari in the Mishnah. Abai v'rov dami travay. Kol davar sheyesh b'refuah ein by mishum darchei hamari. Anything that has a refuah in it, even though it's something that the Amirim did, we don't have to stop ourselves from doing. Rashi says, "She'en yesh boi mishum refuah koin mashka oy sam oy lachash shaloichash alamaka," which is it's if you have like a drink that they should drink, or a salve, or a lachash shaloichash alamaka. I think that's something an incantation. So I guess an incantation that's going to provide that's said on the makkah, you can try to do. But outside of refuah, it is dark emari. In fact, so I guess we're saying that in this case, trying to I don't know what exactly they're trying to get at of doing this. I guess it's to avoid that it should be mapel anymore behemoths, but it's not considered for. I believe that there's a whole discussion about how to define exactly what's a yesh b'mishum before ein b'refuah. Pekumar v'tanya ilon shemashe peroisa, um, a tree that is shedding its fruits. Saikroi b'sikra v'toyene ba'avanim. It's getting the which we'll see soon that it's ripening too fast and they're falling off too quickly. So make it. You can put a red dye on it, and you can put stones on it. So bishlam bavanim, the stones are you put stones on it to retard the growth, so that it will be on the proper time and it will not ripen too fast. It has a physical explanation. Elasoiker b'sikra amai. What's the reason for putting on the red dye? No, that's just a reminder for people to daven for it, and that's okay. Kedetanya, the tame yikra. Someone who's a mitzayra should say he's tame. Tzarich le'dil rabbim. He should tell the rabbim vakshal of rachman, so that people could daven for it. V'chein mi she'ira by davar. If anyone who has a problem, tzarich le'dil rabbim. He has to tell people v'rabbim vakshal of rachman, and people have to, in order that people will daven for him. Ravina mikan talinin kufsa bedikla kaman ki'aitana. This is according to this. This is why we put a bundle of dates. Where you're having this problem that the tree is ripening too fast, that will cause people to daven that the person should not suffer a loss and his date should go bad. It's so interesting that this Gemara clearly says that you should be, when someone's sick, you should tell people about it. And people are so loath to do it. They're so careful. It's like you often find that, and then there's a lot of justifications, right? They'll say that there's no nace that will happen on something. You'll make it from a nace nista to a nace gully if people know about it, if the person's not expected to recover. But they don't say about anything. People just don't want to talk about their personal business. The Gemara says you are supposed to. Okay. Now we're actually going to get back a little bit to Kachim. I have to remind ourselves that Chullin is a part of Kachim. So there's a little bit of preface to this. We're going to talk about the Isser of Oisei ve'Espenoi. The Isser that one cannot shecht a parent together with its child. As we're going to see, it's a machlekes about whether that's just the father, just the mother, or the mother as well as the father. So this Isser of Oisei ve'Espenoi it'll be chayiv malchus if you do so, but it doesn't passel the animal. The animals do not become passel. We're also going to be talking about. Okay, so let's read a little bit of the Mishnah, and then we'll go a little further. This Isser is whether you're in Eretz Yisrael or outside of Eretz Yisrael, b'fnei abayis, v'shaloi b'fnei abayis, whether the Beis Hamikdash is around or not, b'chulin u'b'mikdashim, and it will apply to kachim as well. So the application to kachim, though, is a little bit different in that. How does it work? Okay, so there's a couple of things. First of all, we're going to talk about there's also a din of you can't shech kachim b'chutz, and there's a din that you can't bring chulin b'fnim, which is going to be very relevant there's a bit of a cheshbon in the next part of the Mishnah, so we're going to have this in mind. So the din that you can't do, let's start with, we can't do chulin b'fnim, that is going to chulin b'fnim is going to aser it, but it's not. It's only an essay, so there's not going to be malchus for it. Kachim b'chutz, it's going to passel it, and there's going to be chorus. However, as we're going to see in the Mishnah, if the animal, and we've seen this before through kachim, if the animal was anyway passel for a different reason, because for some other reason other than the fact that it's bachutz, then you will not get chorus for that shchita bachutz. In addition, one other thing to keep in mind, when you shecht we seem to be always assuming you shecht. I guess it doesn't really make it into which one, but we'll always assume you shecht the mother first and then the child. If you shecht kachim bachutz after you already shechted the mother, you shechted the mother wherever it was, and now you're coming to shecht with on the same day the vlad, which is kachim bachutz. The din is in that case it's not going to be a kosher kachim anymore, since it's oisei ve'espenoi. It's going to have a din of mechusar zman, which will remove it from the din of kachim bachutz, so you won't get the chorus or the lav of kachim. Okay, so we'll work this out also as we go. So ketzad, how do we apply this din of oisei espenoi? Hashoichet oisei ve'espenoi, someone who shechts an animal together with the child, chulin bachutz, and it's chulin and it's bachutz, so it's nothing to do with kachim over here. Shneim ksherim, like we said, oisei ve'espenoi does not passel the animal. You ever in a lav, but it doesn't passel the animal. V'hasheni seifeges harbayim. The second one will get malchus. We're talking about it's two separate people. So the one who shechted, let's say the vlad, which we'll just assume to make it easier to refer to it, the second one, which is the vlad, he gets malchus. The first one, at the time he shechted it, the mother, there was no problem. It was not oisei ve'espenoi then, right? Just the first one. So that's simple enough. The first one obviously did nothing wrong. He shechted chulin bachutz, which is fine. The second one is going to get malchus for oisei ve'espenoi. And oisei ve'espenoi is only malchus, it's not chorus. Kachim bachutz, what if both of them were kachim, both the mother and the child were kachim, and he did it bachutz? Harishain chayiv karas. The first one is kachim bachutz. It's not yet oisei ve'espenoi. It's a perfectly valid carbon that he did bachutz, so you get karas. Ushneim psulim. They're both going to be passel when you shecht kachim bachutz. That passels it. Ushneim seifkenes arboim, and they both are going to get malchus. The second one, um, I'm sorry, the second one is not going to get karas because since, like we said, since it was Oisev Espenai, so it makes it a mechusuz zman as opposed to kosher kodshim that's being brought by chutz. So it reduces, strangely enough, because of Oisev Espenai, it takes away the chi of karas for kodshim b'chutz since it wasn't a valid carbon, leaving aside the kodshim b'chutz. Chulin bifnim, if both of them were both the mother and the daughter were chulin, and they bought both of them bifnim, which you're not allowed to do. So shneim psulim, both of them are going to be pasul because that's the din of chulin bifnim. That when you shech,
Did we do kachim b'fnim? No, that we skipped.
we skipped it.
Kachim b'fnim.
Kachem chutz harishon chayav kadosh shneim psulim u'shneim sefek zabayin.
No.
Chulin bifnim is the next one after.
Oh, chulin b'fnim. All
We
right.
did kachem b'chutz. Now we're up to chulin
Oh,
bifnim.
all right.
Okay, so chulin b'fnim. Shneim psulim, they're both pasul, like we said, because of chulin b'fnim. Doing chulin b'fnim pasels the carbon, but it's only an essay, so there's no malchus for it. Vasheni seifek es habayim. The second one is going to get malchus because of oisev espina. It doesn't go away. Then we said, but obviously there's no chorus. Chorus is only for kachem b'chutz. And the first one, you can't get malchus for Oisev Espenai. It wasn't yet Oisev Espenai. Kachem b'fnim, if you do kachem b'fnim, Harishan kasher upater. The first one was done correctly. Vasheni, the person who brings the child, Saivigas arbayim. He's gonna get malchus for Oisev Espenai, upasel. And it's gonna be pasel because it's Oisev Espenai. That will make it invalid. You can never bring a carbon from something that you're not allowed to do. So that will passel the carbon. That kachim. Chulin v'kachim b'chutz. Now we're going to talk about where it's not the same. It's not the same circumstances, but they're both b'chutz. So the mother was chulin and it was brought b'chutz. And then the Vlad, which was kachim, was brought b'chutz. So Harishan kasher upater. Chulin b'chutz is fine, and it's not a oisev espenaya. Vasheni, which is kachim b'chutz, seifek es habayim upasel. He gets malchus and he's pasel, but again, no karas since it's oisev espenay. It can't be kedusha. It can't be kachim b'chutz to get karas. Kachim b'chulin b'chutz. If the first one was kachim b'chutz, and then you did chulin b'chutz, Harishan chayiv karas. You're going to be chayiv karas because now it's a valid shchitas kachim b'chutz since you haven't yet done the Vlad, upasel, and it's going to be pasel obviously because it's chulin b'chutz. Vasheni kasher, and the second one, which is b'chutz, is going to be kasher because Oisev Espenai does not passel on its own, and this is chulin b'chutz, so it's not there's no additional problem. The only problem is Oisev Espenai. Ushnei Oisev K'nes Habayim, but both of them will get malchus. So kachim v'chulin b'chutz. So the first one's going to get karas. Both of them will get malchus for Oisev Espenai. Not for Oisev Espenai. I'm sorry. The first one will get karas and malchus for shchitas chutz. Chulin v'kachim b'fnim, the other way around. So you did chulin b'fnim and then kachim b'fnim. Shneim psulim, both of them are going to be pasel because chulin b'fnim pasels even though it doesn't cause malchus, and kachim b'fnim because of oiseh espenai it's going to be pasel. Vasheni seifek is habayim. The second will get malchus, but the first one is only kachim b'fnim. Like we said, it's only an essay, so there's no malchus on that. Kachim v'chulin b'fnim. You have kachim followed by chulin b'fnim. Harishan kashu pater. Kachim b'fnim is proper, so there's no problem with that. V'asheni, the chulin that you did b'fnim, soivigas ha'abayim, he gets malchus for oisev esbenoi, upasel, and it's going to be pasel not because of oisev esbenoi, but it's going to be pasel because it's chulin b'fnim, which doesn't bring with it malchus, but you put together two. Oisev esbenoi gives the malchus, and the kachim b'fnim, the chulin b'fnim, makes it pasel. Chulin b'chutz ub'fnim. What if you have just chulin? And you did the first one b'chutz, which is going to be fine, and the second one b'fnim. Harishan kashu pata. The first one didn't do anything wrong. V'asheni sayvigas arbayim. He gets malchus for oisav esbenoi upasel because of b'fnim. Kachim b'chutz ub'fnim. He did kachim the first one b'chutz and the second one b'fnim. Harishan chayiv karas. The first one is a kachim b'chutz, which gets karas. Ushneim seifkenes abayim, and they both get malchus. So the first one for kachim b'chutz, you get malchus for bring kachim b'chutz, and the second one, the kachim b'fnim, even though it's in the proper place, it's oisev esbenoi, so it's going to get malchus. Ushneim psulim, and they're both going to be pasel. The second one, the first one because it was kachim b'chutz, and the first one because it's kachim b'chutz, and the second one because it's a mechus zman. I'm sorry, no, because it's puzzle. It was a puzzle of carbon that you couldn't bring b'fnim. It was puzzle to be brought outside of esbenai. So it puzzles it out kachim, even though it was brought b'fnim. It's going to be puzzle. It's mechus zman. Chulin b'fnim u'b'chutz. You did chulin first b'fnim and then b'chutz. Harishim puzzle. The first one is puzzle because of chulin b'fnim, but it doesn't bring along with it a lav upater. It doesn't get a lav because it's only an essay. V'asheni seifeges harbayim. The second one is oisev esbenoi, so it's a lav. The kosher, but oisev esbenoi doesn't pass. Finally, kachim b'fnim ubachutz. If kachim was brought first b'fnim and then the second one was brought bachutz, harishin kosher pata. The first one was done properly. Vasheni seifeges harbayim. The second one gets malchus because it was brought Sheni Seifik Zabayim Upasel. Why is that? Right, because of Oisev Espenoi.
And
but it's Oisev Espenoi, so it gets malchus. And it's Pasel. Why is it Pasel? Because of a Mechus Zman. You could, so Mechus Zman, you're not allowed to bring it. If you bring it, it passes. Okay, now so this was a bit difficult. Now we're going to go back to the basic dinim that we said at the beginning of the Mishnah, so you get a little break from our challenges that we just had. So at the beginning of the Mishnah, we had said, the last thing we said, where do we see that this dinner that you can't slaughter, you can't check the mother as well as its child on the same day applies even by kachim? This is the din that says that you can only bring kachim after a week has passed after the birth of a child. The following pasuk says the din of oisev esbenoi. Since the two psukim are next to each other, it tells you that the din of oisev esbenoi applies to kachim as well. Since the Torah put them together Maybe it's telling you only by kachim and not by chulin. So Gemara Shor Hifsek, since it says it doesn't go straight into as well as Shor Kesavayes Ki Yivale, and then also Oisev Espanol, but it sticks the middle, the Shor Iseh again. So that tells you that it's two separate things. That it's separated the din of kachim from Oisev Espanol. The aim of Bechulin in B'Mukdashin Loi, let's say since the Torah separated it, that it means to say only by Chulin and not by Mukdash, and that's why the Torah is separating them. Kshiv Vishar, the second pasuk of Vishar Iseh, has a vav to attach it. Vav Maisav Alinyan Rishon. Okay, now the Gemara asks, Ima Kachim Klayim Loi Af Oisav Espenoi Klayim Loi. There's a din that one cannot bring Klayim as Kachim. They're excluded from Kachim. Since the Torah puts the two of them together, Kachim together with Oisev Espenoi, maybe the din of Oisev Espenoi will not apply when it's Klayim, when you have a mixture of two animals. That means when you have Klayim, there's a law that you're not allowed to make Klayim. But then the animal that's produced is a kosher animal. So how do we know that there's going to be an Isser of Oisev Espenoi when you shecht let's say if someone breeds, let's say a goat with a sheep, or I don't know, maybe that's not a goat with a cow. If there's such a thing is possible, maybe the child that's produced could be shechted at the same time as the mother. Alama Tanya, Oisoi ve'espinoi, noi b'klayim u'b'koi. That it's noig, it is noig. We have a brayz that says that Oisav Espenoi is noig by klayim, and it's also noig by a koi, which is a special kind of animal. The Gemara will explain about that later. Va'oid. In addition, another problem, sexiv. The Torah says about Oisav Espenoi seh, use the word seh, va'amarava zeban av, komak v'shem seh, ein el lahoitzi asakloim. When the Torah says the original pasuk to tell you we darshan it, he darshans it to say that whenever the Torah says seh, it's coming to say only if it gives birth to a seh as well. But if it gives birth to Klein, that's not included. It's a general rule about seh that when the Torah says seh, it comes to exclude Klein. And over here,
Rabbi argues on this brisa.
I'm sorry?
We had a brisa Oisav Espenoi noig b'klayim or b'koi.
Right. So we're asking a kasha on that. We didn't.
Our first question was.
There's a second question. First of all, you have from the brisa that said Oisav Espenoi klayim. First we wanted to say that klayim should be excluded. So we brought a brisa that said Klein is included in Oisei Espenoi, and also we're saying on general principles, Klein should be included because we have a general rule about Seh that it includes Klein, and we say Seh by Oisei Espenoi. So in addition to the brisa that Seiser our limud, we also have our original tentative. Or tentatively, we wanted to say originally, right? The Klein should be excluded.
Right. And
so we said, first of all, there's a brayse that says Klein is an Oisav Espenoi. And secondly, Va'oid is a second question on that. Besides the kasha from the brayse, we could also ask from Rava, from Rava's rule. It's coming to be Maitzi as a Klein. So this is.
In other words, Rava would agree with the concept.
So this is a kasha. This is also a second kasha on the brayse, in addition to what we had tried to learn. Correct, right? The answer is the Torah says, even though we have a reason, we had a theory that Klein should be excluded, and we said Seh should exclude Klein. But we have oi. It says in the pasuk oi l'rabis es aklayim. Right? The pasuk said shar oiseh oiseh v'espenois. So shar oiseh is coming to include klaim. But you need eye for a different reason. You need it to be mechalik. I might think that you need to do, the Torah says, if it wouldn't have said shar, it would say shar v'seh oisev espenoi loy sishchatu. I would say you have to shecht both a shar and a seh at the same time as its child. Kamash malan lechalik. Kamash malan. You can learn out lechalik from the fact that the Torah says oisev es benoi. Benoi is a lashon yachid. So obviously we're not talking about both the seh and the shar. Maybe you need to bring both the shar and the seh, and you only have to bring one of their children in order to be over on the isser of oisev es benoi. Shar oisev es benoi. So my la me oy nafka. L'chayru, you need the oy to tell you this din. So how could you say the oy is to include klayim? So Gemara, loy me oysay. You learn it now from the word oysay, not from the word oy. So therefore, oy is still left to tell you klayim. So Gemara nichal rabban in the miyata lehu oysay. Alachanani le mahat le oysay lechalak minale. The Gemara is we're going to soon bring a machlekes between the Rabbanon and Chananya about how to darshan this pasuk for a different purpose. And Chananya we use Oisei for a different limud. Where are you going to learn out to be mechalik? So Gemara l'chalik leitzarich kra. He holds that you don't need a pasuk to be mechalik. The Saval Krib Yonason. He holds like Krib Yonason. Tanya ish asher yikal as avaves imay. So it was a kal, his mother, his father, and his mother. In liala ava v'imay, ava shaloi imay shaloi ava minaim. How do you know to be mechalik over there? Tamalayma ava v'imay kilel, ava kilel imay kilel. From the fact that Torah didn't have to say, could have said ava v'imay. It could have said ava kilel. It could have said, what was the pasuk? Yishisha yikal es ava v'es imay. Why do you have to say es ava v'es imay? It could have just said Avavimai. So it's coming to tell you if he does each one, for the fact that Torah separated them, it's going to tell you each one. Divrei Rabbi Yoshe, he says no, you don't need a pasuk to separate them. When the Torah gives you a list of things, each one could be separated; they could be together, without a limud. Okay, we'll stop over here.
All right, thank you so much. Have a great Shabbos.
See you on Matzah Shabbos.